As I said, you don't always realize the most significant moments as they are happening in your life. I'm going to shout out the WNBA here. Whole new segment. I've entitled this, Don't Fumble the Bag. Do not fumble the bag. This is a whole new situation for the WNBA, and it couldn't be at a more perfect time. Just in case you don't know, the WNBA's television deal comes up in 2025. That is humongous because this is a league that for its 28 years of existence has never made money. Ever, ever, ever. They have never made a dollar. They have had to be subsidized their entire time. However, they finally, at just the right time, this is their Tiger Woods, this is their Larry and Magic moment, this is a beautiful opportunity after almost 30 years of not being able to make a profit. All you have to do is not fumble the bag. It's a very significant moment for women's basketball, specifically the WNBA here. This is like a free agent. Like, you know, when teams or when a player in free agency has a situation where he's finally at the last year of his contract and he has to act right, this is the 1 year, I'm begging you, act right. You have a television deal coming up next season. You have all sorts of new excitement. Don't fumble the bag. Stop the bullshit. Put your best foot forward. Stop the bitching. Stop the moaning. Give yourself a chance to actually make money because this really was the year of the ladies. I'm not even saying this to be woke. I'm not saying this to get laid. I am not saying this to impress anybody. As a basketball fan, the top 4 moments I've had so far this year was Steph versus Sabrina three-point contest in the All-Star game, which, by the way, was the most watched in the last 4 years of the All-Star Saturdays. Iowa-LSU rematch, we got to 12.3 million, which was the most watched. Number 3 for me was then the final game, which got up to 24 million people watching that game, which is more than NCAA men, which is more than the NBA the last 5 seasons, more than the World Series, more than NASCAR, more than golf and the Masters in the last 20 years. And now the WNBA draft was so fun to watch and so perfectly done. And by the way, 2.4 million viewers. That is 6 times higher than it's ever been before. And oh, by the way, is higher again in ratings than the men. They beat the NBA draft ratings for in the last 5 years. 2020, 2021 actually had lower ratings than the WNBA draft. So it's once again record-setting, new eyeballs, all sorts of attention, a lot of fun, getting more ratings than the men are even doing, and it is exciting. It is the most we've ever seen, arguably the most excitement we've ever seen for the WNBA since its inception. I mean, you know, they were packing stadiums for this. They were packing stadiums to announce a pick. You don't see this in professional women's basketball. The Indiana Fever, who got Caitlin Clark at number 1, which was the biggest duh of all time. Go ahead and cut to this, Corey. This is the players. This is in the stadium here. This is more than they got to watch the games last year. They sucked last year. Nobody came to watch. They did this just to watch them announce that they were going to pick the most obvious pick ever. Hit it for me.
With the first pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, the Indiana Fever select Caitlin.
Look at that. For women's basketball. It's for the WNBA. Teammates are hyped. I'm loving the fact that the teammates are getting it. You know, besides she's a great player, look, they're feeding into the crowd. They're putting on the Caitlin jersey. They're saying, let's go. This is what you need to do. Don't do any of the other nonsense that you've done for the last 5 years, and I'll get into all that in just a little bit. Look at the excitement. And oh, by the way, the ladies did their thing too. The draft picks themselves were dressed to the 9. Corey, go ahead and let's just keep on going. They were adding more excitement. This is part of the 2.4 million and all the social media attention. They were feeling it, man. Look at these ladies. Who says basketball girls can't be pretty? Look at them. Swagged out. Looking like $1 million. Contracts aren't there yet, but they're going to get there. But damn, there's Angel with her model training. But I mean, they were dressed up. They looked good. They looked professional, classy, sexy, talented athletes as they are. It was this high ratings. It was more than the NBA in a couple of the last 5 years, and it was just a lot of packing stadiums, and everyone's going nuts, and people are all. It's just so there's so much going on here, and the casting, even just the picks themselves were done perfectly. This was Hollywood casted beautifully. I am excited for the first time ever, really, for a WNBA season because y'all nailed it. This was Hollywood casting. If you could have written this script, you couldn't have done it much better as it kind of followed in college. Corey, go ahead and get this next picture for me. I mean, you can put it on a billboard. This was perfectly done. You got Caitlin at 1, which was duh, but still going to Indiana is big. That's big. That's, by the way, the home of Larry Bird. The little farm white girl goes to Indiana, the home of Larry Bird, only a couple states away from Iowa. It's like a 7-hour drive. It's going to fit into that whole crowd. That's perfect. She belongs there. You got Cameron Brinkett, too, the big 6'4", tall, pretty blonde, and now goes to Los Angeles. That's also perfect casting because that follows right along the lines of Lisa Leslie, Candace Parker, the tall, pretty, showy girls. They go to Los Angeles. And then shout out to Chicago. General manager of Chicago, you deserve a raise. I don't know how much you got, quadruple it, because they not only got, Cardoso at 3 from South Carolina, they then traded up and got Angel Reese at 7. That is so freaking brilliant because now you have not only Caitlin joining, Boston and Indiana, but what Chicago did with adding both Angel and Cardoso, now you have the 2 girls who both beat Caitlin in the NCAA finals on the same team. Perfect. And oh, by the way, Chicago, Twin Towers, they're both very tall, lots of buildings. This is, the casting was so well done. Little Iowa farm girl goes to farm area. You get the big pretty blonde. She goes to Los Angeles to follow Lisa Leslie and Candace Parker. And then Chicago gets not just the one, but the 2 girls that have beaten the number 1 pick and the one bringing a lot of the hype into the WNBA. They put them on the same team in a city full of big buildings. They're Twin Towers. It's just everything's just written well done. Well done. So everything is lining up just perfectly right now. You're going from record-setting ratings in college. You're now going to record-setting ratings in the WNBA draft. You put everybody where they need to be. So this is all great, right? Everything's going great. I think this is going to be phenomenal. This is, though, the one thing with all these new eyeballs. Don't fumble the bag. And as I'm going to put up here now, Corey, it is time for a woke-up call. WNBA. I'm telling you, I tried watching you. There is a reason that we've had some issues with trying to support WNBA. And so this is really what, like I said, I'm going to call this a woke-up call because you got to cut out all the nonsense. As the NCAA women have now proved unequivocally and without any sort of ability to argue, the NCAA women have proved that in a 65% male audience, we will watch women's basketball. We will support women's basketball. We will sell out stadiums. We will beat NBA ratings. We will beat Major League Baseball ratings. People will come support women, watch women's basketball. They will pay money. They will give them sponsorships. There's millions of dollars to be made. There's eyeballs to be brought to the screen. There is money and attention that can be brought to women playing basketball. NCAA has proven it without a shadow of a doubt. So you got to let that go. You got to stop. The problem, unfortunately, WNBA is you. And this is something they don't like hearing. This is something that's tough for me to deliver. But the fact is, for the last 5 years, you guys or ladies have been insufferable. You have whined, you have bitched, you have finger pointed, you have blamed everybody else for your low ratings. You have bitched about the pay even though you don't make any money. You finger point, you bring up politics, you do all this sort of nonsense, and you're insufferable. Most of the stars, if you listen to them talk in the WNBA for more than 20 seconds, you're like, oh my God, click. They are just tough to listen to because all they want to do is whine and complain. And a lot of it, again, is based on, it's because y'all don't want to watch women's basketball. We just disproved it without contestation. There's no ability to argue this anymore. Women's college basketball can get eyeballs. It can make money. So that you got to let that go. And you're going to have to accept because this is the year. This is the year to do it. Just shut up with all the other stuff. The problem has unfortunately been you, and it's a brand issue. This is, and you're not the only sport that does this, that sometimes has to learn the hard way here. The other problem is that you kind of think that the product is all you need. And that's just not how it goes. The idea that, we play basketball and we're competitive, so therefore we should get the same attention as everybody else. That's not how sports works. There is too much other things, and there are too many other places to put my eyeballs. And I'll just say, look at boxing. Look at boxing right now. Do you think Jake Paul and Mike Tyson is going to be the best technically boxing, exhibition we've ever seen? No, but they're going to get the eyeballs. You look at UFC. Is it always the top 2 fighters that gets the most attention? No. You look at the NBA, 1979-80, before that, they were playing good basketball. They were on freaking tape delay. USA Soccer, golf without Tiger Woods. We just had the Masters. I don't even remember the guy's name, and I could not give a shit. Apparently, he won twice in a row. I don't care. I have no clue who he is. I didn't watch. Nobody watched. Nobody cares. The only thing that I did watch was that Tiger, unfortunately, had the worst round of his life, 48 years old. He's probably done too. But, that was all I got from the Masters. I mean, golf, since Tiger has faded away and now with their separation and everything else, is a perfect example of, dude, it doesn't really matter sometimes. I mean, obviously, you got to put out a decent product. You have to put out something worthy of watching. But I think you guys, or ladies, I'm going to have to be careful with the pronouns here. You know, unfortunately, you guys, I keep saying guys, y'all have an idea that it's all just product. It's not. This is brand issues. The problem is that you are hard to root for. And I'll give the best example quickly. Brittany Griner was a shining example, not Brittany specifically. So for anybody that doesn't remember, this was just last year. This is the only thing I really remember, you know, other than the Aces and Liberty. I watched a little bit of the WNBA finals, but the big thing I remember from last season was, most people know this because it made most of the news, Brittany Griner, star of the Phoenix Mercury, had to play overseas because they don't make enough money sometimes here. And so she went to Russia. They found hash in her suitcase. Petty little thing, not a big deal. Russia used it as a political ploy. Unfortunately, the poor girl was locked into prison for a long time, and that was unfair and that wasn't cool. And, you know, we tried to bring her back, and we were finally able to do it. Now, we had to trade the damn Merchant of Death, that the guy from the Lord of War movies. We had to trade that to get her back here, but we got her back, you know, cool. And so then, first game back for the Phoenix Mercury, there's like 12,000 people in the audience. They usually average about 2,000, and they're all going nuts, and they're all, you know, having fun, and everybody's welcoming Brittany Griner back. And the first thing the head coach says after the game, I remember this clearly, wasn't a sellout. Yeah, we got 12,000, but it wasn't a sellout. I mean, immediately, all the goodwill I had, poof, gone. I was like, dude, really? Really? This is cool. She's back. And I even, you know, I'm paying attention. I'm into it. I'm into the story. You got 12,000 people. You got a bunch of new eyeballs. Everyone's kind of, you know, trying to, even though half the country kind of didn't agree with what we had to do to get her back, I was happy for her. I was happy to see her back. And there's 12,000 people in the crowd and everyone's going nuts and welcome her. And this is a wonderful thing. First thing the coach says, well, it wasn't a sellout. I mean, why wasn't it a sellout if LeBron came back? It's like, oh my God, this is the problem you guys are having. This is not a women's basketball problem. This is a WNBA problem. It's a totally different thing. And I'll give you another example outside of the WNBA to kind of show you what I'm talking about. Ronda Rousey. I'm going to play this in a second here. But for people that don't remember, Ronda Rousey was the biggest deal in UFC for a minute. She was on Entourage. She was a big star. She was crossover, Fast and Furious, doing all this stuff. And, you know, she was the biggest deal. She actually still has, by the way, I think 2 of the top 5 most watched UFC pay-per-views of all time. She was making money. She was popular. Everyone was talking about her. She was doing movies. Then she lost, and then the bitching came. And then the excuses, and then the finger pointing, and then the whining. And she even tried to go to WWE. Same thing. Got a big old push. Got undeserved. Got to go to WrestleMania after like 2 months of wrestling. And then things didn't go her way. The cross-art booed her. And same thing. The bitching, the whining, complaining. We don't like seeing this from our athletes. We don't like seeing them try to do this whole, woe is me, life is so hard. It's a turnoff. And so I'll play. This is just recently. This is a recent interview from Ronda Rousey. And still complaining about shit that happened years ago. Go ahead and hit it.
I did 99% of all the media traveling all over the world, and she got to sit comfortably at home and do the 5 radio interviews that wanted to talk to her in Albuquerque. I was going into that fight already concussed and freshly tearing my ACL. My mouth guard didn't have the back to the bottom teeth. I had the worst weight cut of my life. There was all kinds of drama going on with my family and my training camp. Everything that possibly could have gone wrong went wrong. And so then afterward, I was like, well, what if it was just those things? What if it was just a concussion? What if it was just the mouth guard? What if it was just the weight cut? Maybe it was just the stress that I was going, decision for myself to leave. And I still, you know, take flack for it to this day. But then again, those are the people that don't care about me in my health and my future and my family. So I don't want to fight for them because they don't deserve it.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that was like 10 years ago. She's still, and God, I mean, what else excuse could she have? It was the mouth guard. It was the weight cut. My family. It's not my fault. I can't just take, you know, accountability and just move on with my life. I have to blame. I have to bitch. I have to moan. Dude, and, to this day, Ronda Rousey could win 100 fights in a row. I don't want to watch Ronda Rousey. I don't give a shit about Ronda. Just whine, bitch. I don't want to hear it. And the WNBA, I'm sorry, you guys, not forever. You started off great. You had a good run. But the last about 4 or 5 years, oh my God. Just we don't do this. We don't get that. We don't do this. Just so you know, and for people that are uninitiated to actually what is happening and why, because of all the new millions of people, when Caitlin Clark's contract was put out, and on the internet, it was only like $70,000 a year, and people are losing their mind, and this isn't fair, and LeBron's making $50 million. So let me inundate the uninundated as to what's going on. And I want you to listen. Come here. The WNBA has never made a profit in its 28 years. I'm going to repeat that. I'm not doing this to be a dick. I'm just telling you the truth. The WNBA has never made money in 28 years. On average, they lose about $10 million a year. They are subsidized by the NBA. I'm not being rude. This is just a fact. Now, last year, they finally had a little bit of improvement, and that's great. But for 28 years, they've lost about, on average, $10 million a year, and they only have about $12 million in payroll. But $15 million of that comes from the NBA. So basically, if they were to not pay their players, they would go completely flat. But the only reason they have a payroll is because the NBA annually donates $15 million a year. So it is unfortunate, and it is sad that currently the way things are situated, that Caitlin Clark is only going to make $70,000 to $100,000 a year, which is not, even that much compared to a lot of people working nowadays, going everywhere else. But the fact is, how are you going to pay people in a company that doesn't make a single dollar of profit? If it wasn't subsidized by the mean, terrible men in the NBA, they wouldn't even be around. So I'm not saying this to be rude. I'm just saying, in case you didn't know, they have not made a profit in the last 28 seasons. However, last year, their revenue did improve from $60 million. Now they're saying upwards of $200 million. And they have a new television deal coming up. Now, with everything happening, Caitlin, Angel, Cameron, all this new attention, all this new eyeballs, they have a new television deal that could be huge for new revenue and for making actual money and getting women the contracts that we all think that they deserve. But until you make the money, you can't give it away if there's nothing out there to give. So this year being this important, as I'm showing you Ronda Rousey and all the bitching, what am I talking about? It's this type of stuff that's just happened. They were at a USA practice, and they asked, Kelsey and Diana Taurasi, what do you think about all the new women's attention? And this is exactly what I'm saying. Do not fumble the bag. Do not do what you've been doing for the last 5 years, which unfortunately is this.
Yeah, it's about damn time.
It's about damn time.
I mean, where have all these people been?
Same way and have the same mindset as you do for men's sports. This is what can happen, and so hopefully that continues to grow.
I'm telling you, don't. I'm warning you, don't do this. It has not worked. At least, if nothing else, just to try something new. For the last 4 or 5 years, you have blamed everybody else but yourselves for the fact that nobody's watching you. Now it's been proven that with women's college basketball, we will watch college basketball. You can make millions of dollars. You can get a lot of eyeballs. WNBA draft was now at the 2.4 million, higher than NBA has been for in a couple years in the last 5 seasons. So, with all that being said, you're getting new people and everyone's going to pay attention. If the first thing they hear and see is a bunch of, we set a record, but we still didn't make as much as they made, or we didn't do this, or we didn't get that, and and Ronda Rousey, and complain your way into why you're a victim and why the world's against you and why nothing else is your fault, it's going to immediately, this is such a significant moment. You have so many good things going on. I am so personally excited to watch you guys next season. I am begging you, please don't fumble the bag. Please don't screw this up. Just, pretend you're a free agent. You have a television contract. Pretend you enjoy doing this. Pretend that you actually make, at least enough money to where you're not starving. I mean, I get you need to make more. If you get a new television deal that is worth what it can be, you will make a lot more. Don't screw it up. Okay? Good. All right. Feel better. Last one here.